Hey, y'all.
Hey, I'm liking your cowboy headsets.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't have anything on Cowboys. I forgot I had these on.
Oh, those are cute. Buy your mom some.
Welcome back to Time Control Podcast. This is the Charity E.
Of course, it's June Speaks.
I am Janae.
I'm Misha 08.
And we have a guest in the house today. Pretty excited about it because y'all know when people come in, we usually act out. So this should be really, really good. Mom, who do we got?
We have the beautiful, the one and only, our fave cousin, but therapist of the hour, none other than Natalie Dyer.
Hello.
We are so excited to see you here because we all need therapy here on this table.
Okay. Well, Mom, you gave a brief little, the people probably still have no idea who Natalie is. So, Natalie, if you don't mind, can you tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and some fun stuff?
Sure. I am Natalie Dyer. I am their cousin.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor. I've been practicing for well over 20 years. I do mostly marriage and relationship counseling. And I am finding that I really enjoy working with African American men. Love it.
Okay.
This is going to be so
Yeah,
good.
it is going to be good. Let's see. What else do? I sing.
Great
Yes.
singer.
I am a mom of an adult. Doesn't it feel good? And an older teen. So it means I'm almost an empty nester, and I'm kind of looking forward to that.
It's great.
It's amazing.
I think it's good too because I don't have none. So I can imagine. I can imagine. But before we get started into I feel like it's going to get a little heavy, but let's play a quick game of this or that. So I'm going to ask you two different things.
Okay.
You just tell me which you prefer. So, okay. Kids in the first quarter century or the back half? If you have, kids in your 20s up to 25 or having kids after 25.
Yeah, I'm going to say the latter.
Okay.
Because I didn't have my first until I was 30.
Okay.
Had I had her prior to that, it wouldn't have been any good for her.
I got you. Okay. Online dating or traditional dating?
I would prefer traditional dating, but such is life. Online is kind of what I have to do right now because of how my life is set up. Yeah, and that's interesting.
Okay. We're going to get back to that for sure. Double dates or solo dates?
Solo, I'm 50.
I mean,
What are we doing?
I love double dates. In-person meetings or Zoom?
Do I feel like doing my hair? Probably in person.
Okay. And then last one, just fun, beach or the city?
The beach, yes, all
Honestly,
day.
same. What's your favorite beach?
I would say my favorite beach. It is, what is it called? Eagles Point in Bermuda.
Where, you got money. Where is that?
I haven't been to Bermuda. Let me go.
Where
Let
is
me
that
go.
at?
No, I was working for a law firm years ago, and we would have our retreats there every year. Loved it.
Eagles Point? Is that what you
Eagles
said?
Point. Eagles
Yeah,
Point.
I believe that's going to be on your calendar
Oh,
and
yeah.
your radar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, isn't Bermuda, excuse me. I feel like the guy that's be rapping in Plano. Hello. Isn't Bermuda like the Bermuda Triangle where everybody gets lost?
Yes, Kamisha.
Yes.
Are you saying she made it out? Goodness. Okay, so you're a therapist. Is it therapist or counselor? Are those the same or different?
Those two are interchangeable.
Okay. So I might say both because, okay. You're a therapist. So can you kind of give the signs when somebody should seek therapy? What do you call it, Mom? Telltale
signs.
Telltale signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a number of things. Just kind of depends on what's going on in life. So if they're experiencing feeling completely overwhelmed, not able to solve problems, confused, erratic thoughts, erratic behavior. If they are ending a relationship, if they're starting a relationship, if they're kind of in the middle of a relationship and some things are just kind of going on. I just think that therapy is great anytime at any season in life because we all have something that we can talk about that's going on in our lives. So I think anytime would be a great time.
You know, I always say that. I tell you guys that all the time. I said everyone needs in their life.
Go ahead.
Shirley's looking at me. Everyone needs in life. I always tell you that. I say you need a priest, a pastor. You need a really good mentor. You need a BFA and everybody BFF, and everybody needs a therapist. I always tell my kids that.
Mom,
I do.
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
No, I think the thing about like people, like she says, like, oh, okay, everybody needs a therapist, but on the same token, I feel like people don't know when they need therapy. They know when other people need therapy. So I feel like what happens is we're so used to our dysfunction that we don't realize how off we are.
I agree with that.
So I feel like, so in this day and time, and I may be going off script, you know, there's so many people that's like, oh, I have a therapist. Do you think now it's a fad, or do you look at it on the flip side to say you're glad that so many people are checking up on their own mental health?
I'm always going to lean toward being happy that people are checking up.
Okay.
Because hopefully, if it is them going into therapy out of a fad, once they get there, the actual work will begin. The thing that I'm really kind of iffy about, I won't say iffy, it's just kind of questionable for me, is the whole life coaching thing, because I think that takes people so far, but then they're just kind of left there because there's some like psychological things that start to happen when you start dealing with the intimate parts of you and things that really matter to you, the passions. Even if you're talking about business, it pricks something within you. And if there's some underlying issues that haven't been resolved, a life coach can't help you with that.
Right.
You're just kind of left there. So that's kind of scary for me sometimes when people just have a life coach.
Right.
I'm all for it, but I think there needs to be a therapist on board as well.
Because what mom says all the time is that when she life coaches people, she says, hey, I'm not a therapist, and I can recommend you some, because I think people try to intertwine those roles.
I do it all the time. You know, I know as far, I've taken them as far as they can go, and I said, you know what? I got 3 really good therapists, and I started naming Natalie, Chandria, Dr. Jada. You know, and I said if they're not a fit, they can direct you to someone who is. But I know when to cut off, so I agree with that.
Well, I'm gonna tell you now, I'm just gonna go straight to a therapist. I'm not getting no life coach. I'm not. That's a lot of money. Again, y'all have money. What's the point of a life
the
coach?
girl with
what?
We don't even
With
want to talk
what?
about charity.
Gas is high. Y'all looked at the prices.
don't let Charity fool y'all. Charity straight.
Don't look. She real
Charity
straight.
about to buy a house.
Charity said, get out of my business.
Don't do that.
The thing is, why have a life? Like, what is the purpose of a life coach at that point? Like, really?
You know, mentorship and life coaching is just helping people just find their path. Some people just don't know where they're directed, don't have directions. Mine is more so for adult women and young teenage girls, just helping them find their way.
So
some really don't have an idea of what to do, where to go, how to do it, what their desires are, what their passions are. So that's what I'm there for. But when we start unpacking and they tell me, you know, so like a young lady told me one time I had a knife to my mother's throat and she was sleeping, she didn't know it. I said, baby, you need a therapist.
She needs a psychiatrist.
Yeah, when someone is telling me they're in a very abusive relationship and they don't know how to get out, I say, sweetheart, you need to dial the abuse hotline and you need it. You know, it's just those signs that you know it's time to go and have a conversation.
That's interesting.
How do people know when to go to just a therapist versus a psychiatrist where they need money?
I'm glad you asked that.
Medicine.
And money.
Yeah.
So typically a person is more willing to go see a therapist before they're willing to go see a psychiatrist because they think, I'm crazy if I have to be on medication. So when clients come to see me, if we start talking about some things that I know probably need to be medicated, then I will make suggestion that they go and have a psychiatric assessment. And I put it out there just as a suggestion that they go. It may be a strong suggestion, but I put it out there. And then I'll tell them, go see them. And then once you've seen them, then we'll reschedule. That way they know you're not coming back here until you've done that.
Right.
So they go do that. They get the diagnosis. They're going to prescribe medication if necessary. So then we do therapy, because if you are seeing a psychiatrist, you need to be seeing a therapist too.
I agree.
So, like, what when you have to put people in like grippy socks, that comes from a therapist, right?
Grippy socks.
Socks.
You-
I
like-
like charity, and I didn't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
That's not funny. I'm being serious because I think there's therapists who are like, okay, like she was saying, like this is beyond me. I can't really help you at this point. You need medicine, prayer, and
A straight jacket.
grippy socks. Yeah.
Yeah, when they have to go to a psychiatric
Yeah,
hospital,
yeah.
they do see a psychiatrist there, but there are therapists that work there too. Because
Okay.
again, the two work in tandem. You need
Okay.
both.
Okay.
But in all, oh, go ahead.
I just had a question. What is grippy socks?
You know, like those socks you
Were
put
you
on
in
at the
the
hospital
hospital?
and they got grip at the bottom?
So you don't slip.
Well, what does that have to do with a shrink?
It's okay.
Oh, my
Commissioner.
God.
We'll tell you later.
I think the thing about it is and all jokes aside, but life has a way of knocking everybody off their feet, and we are all one call away from even a psychiatrist. And I think that what happens is we wait too long, and then everything is bubbling over, and then you just like, okay, I feel like when you I'm going to use me as an example. So I started therapy. I found one that fit me, but then you feel like off jump, you have all these things, like you just explode like a volcano, and it's just because we just wait too long.
I agree.
And then people just think, oh, I don't need therapy. And what do you say to people like if we are in a relationship and the person just refuses therapy? And it's something that's very important. Would you say that's like a deal breaker?
For me, it would be.
Okay.
Because of the work that I do. And I tell the single women that I work with, tell the men this too, that if the partner that you have is not willing to work on their mental health, then they're not they're not going to be good for you, because they're not going to be willing to work on a lot of other things as well. Because once you get your mind right, everything else kind of falls into place.
I agree.
See, when we were coming up, it wasn't a thing in the Black
Taboo.
community.
Yeah.
You were crazy. They didn't say anything outside of the word crazy. Oh my gosh, they're seeing a psychiatrist, or we didn't even call them a counselor. And it's very, for me, I found that when I'm talking to women and young girls, it's very difficult to get men, I can just say Black men because that's basically minority men, into counseling. Like they don't want to go. And back in the day, we had to do blood tests to get married. Like
What?
old. You had to have a blood test to get married.
Why?
Just to make sure that y'all weren't cussing them. Like
That was
like it was a thing. It really was
They
a
still
thing.
need to do it.
They need to do it. I believe they need to.
Boomers are wild.
But
That's crazy.
No, but what I feel that really should be required. A lot of people go and have conversations with their pastors. You've been there, you know that. Have conversations with pastors, but pastors don't know all the things.
That's right.
So I would say marriage counseling, yes, get in those classes, but I think y'all need to go unpack some lives and find out what he got going on in his family, what's in that lineage, and what's in her family before y'all say the I and the do.
Agreed.
Well, we're gonna get back to that in a little
Okay.
bit, but before we jump into that, do you think, because you're talking about how you don't think Black men will get into therapy, so Natalie, is there a certain demographic that's usually more open to seeing a therapist?
Oh, sure. And that's going to be probably 30 to 40, maybe 30 to 45-year-old Caucasian women.
Okay,
They go to therapy.
like it's just like
It's
homework.
It's in the budget.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. It's in the budget. What I have seen, though, because we were talking about fad or whatnot, that's trending more now are younger African-American women.
Okay.
But since the pandemic was a horrible thing, or has been a
Right.
horrible thing, but there was some good that came out of the pandemic, too.
Yeah.
Because there are more men. I see more men now than I ever have, probably in my over 20 years of practicing. African-American men that are actually working on themselves, because people. They lost
Yes.
jobs. They lost, relationships. They lost homes. They lost so many things. The things that identify manhood for men.
Right.
Lots of men lost those things. So then they had to go back and find themselves.
Do you find it that Black men like to go to more women to seek help, or are they more comfortable with other men?
I do think that majority of them prefer a woman. I think they feel like it's going to be a softer presentation of the therapy, if you will. And I don't think that they feel as judged as they might if they go talk to another man about whatever it is they may be facing.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's very interesting because
Very
I would
interesting.
think I would go like, well, this is me assuming. I think black men probably want to go to a black woman because it reminds them of like their mom or their grandmother or, you know, an aunt. So they're a little more comfortable. And then they don't want to necessarily see a man, again, assuming, because there's a lot of black fathers that are absent. So they're just like, how do I talk to this man about my problems? I've never had to do this before.
Yeah, I
but
don't disagree with that either. I think that may be a part of it too.
yeah, but I'm like Janae, I'm no therapist. So
I'm no therapist. But you know, one thing that was important to me and that what I think people have to understand is that you also have to interview your therapist.
Most definitely.
And I was explaining to Mom about when you go on like Cigna, it's gonna list what this person's therapy style is. So that's your initial weeding out. But then once you get there and the vibe not off, you don't have to go back.
That's right.
And people don't realize you have to interview your therapist, feel comfortable, feel led. Because, you know, me and Mom were having a discussion. And so she was thinking that sometimes therapists can lead you down like a path that that you wouldn't want to go down. But I was like, if it's a good therapist, they're really just giving you keys. They're not trying to control your desired end. They're more like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Mm-hmm. And you're like, if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, throw it out. But overall, I feel like they're not trying to steer you down a particular path. And if they are, besides being healthy,
For sure.
and if they are, then you might need to look into somebody else.
I think that brings up a good question. So we do have therapists who specialize and say, I'm a Christian therapist. Is there a difference between methodology if you go in those directions?
There can be. I'm a Christian, but I'm not a Christian therapist.
Okay.
So let me say that differently. At work,
Right.
at my job, I'm a Christian therapist. In my private practice,
Okay.
I'm just a therapist. I'm a Christian that's a therapist. I don't market myself that way because I think it limits me on the clientele that will actually
Right.
contact me.
Right.
I'm all for Jesus, and I try to sow seed of Christ in people's lives without preaching.
Yes.
to them. When they come to see me at work, we talk about the word straight off. You know,
Right.
because you just walked into the counseling center at the church.
Right.
You know. And honestly, even in some of our guidelines or our rules or whatnot, we're not able to introduce religion into our therapy without the client initiating it.
Gotcha.
Very good.
Yeah,
Good
so,
to know.
Yes, did I answer that question?
Yeah, you did. You did a fabulous job on that. Come on.
I wanted to say that Charity, obviously, she introduced me to a therapist at one point, and she's really good, but she considered herself a holistic therapist. So what I got from that was, like Janae was saying, the keys that she gave me. I would rather probably go to a Christian therapist next time. But she was like, do grounding for what I went to her for, like anxiety and stuff like that. So she had me like, go outside, get, vitamin D, sunlight, take, I guess grounding is where you take your shoes off and you're sitting, and like she wasn't telling me to meditate. She was like, just get outside. I think that you're inside too much because, work from home and stuff like that. So hers was just more holistic things without like medicating me pretty much, and just telling me just to do more things by myself and get in tune. So I guess, is that what holistic therapy is? Because
It can be. I think a lot of therapists are more eclectic, meaning that they kind of incorporate a lot of different things into the therapy that they present. I would label myself as a cognitive behavioral therapist simply because for me it's closest to scripture by the basis of it, which means basically that you help someone change their mind, therefore their behavior changes. Scripture says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So that's my foundation
good.
for
That was good.
I said all the time. That's my foundation for my approach to therapy. However, I do tell people, because it's true, you get more sunlight, you're not going to be as depressed.
Right.
I teach people about mindfulness. If you're aware of the space that you are literally in the moment, you're less likely to be anxious because you're focused on right now and not over there somewhere that you haven't even made it to. Things like that.
Right.
You're less stressed. Because again, you're focused on what's happening right in this moment. And in this moment, you're not driving down the highway and possibly going to have a car accident. You're sitting
Right.
in the chair in the conference room. you
Right,
know?
right.
So things like that, I do incorporate some of those things. But again, cognitive behavioral is my my jam.
And then I think that's where this displaced anger can come, because we haven't dealt with life at the moment that we should have dealt with things.
Agreed.
And then we just let things compound and compound. And then you look up and you have the Oscars.
Will Smith.
My favorite. He's my favorite actor. Everybody on this table already know. Me and Will. Jada didn't know it, but we just had this thing going on.
I mean, apparently we
Will
had a thing
didn't
going
know
on
it.
with everybody.
Messy. Anyway, but I've just always adored the guy, right? He's been
Why, Mom? Why?
From the time that Fresh Prince came on and Will Smith entered our lives or my life, he was just that guy. It was just, he seemed to be inclusive. He was funny to me. It was just to me.
He was a fan.
I always
He is a fan.
have followed him, and his character has always been impeccable.
Has it?
Well,
no, his public
his
persona.
public persona
There we go.
has always been that way. So he's just my favorite guy. And when I saw that at the Oscars, Charity called me. She said, "Did you see Will? What did you say to me?" I think you said,
I don't remember, Mom. I
don't know,
said
but
Will slapped.
she said, "Did you see Will? He just lost it." That's what you say. He lost. I said, "He lost it. What happened?" She said, "Like he just slapped Chris Rock," and I was like, Will."
But I really do feel like it's a lot of like suppression. I think I always say, my saying, a hairstylist told me this many years ago, to thine own self be true. And I think we tell ourselves, we're okay.
We do. We lie to ourselves a lot.
I'm fine.
And believe it.
I'm fine. But then literally one small thing could have you just explode. And then now, because he didn't, well, what appears that he wasn't dealing with all that emotion. Look at all that he is set to lose and what's been put on hold, and him having to resign from the academy. And how can we deal with that? So it's childhood trauma is like a taboo thing now, but it's real.
It's real.
It is
Definitely.
very real.
There's a root to everything that we deal with.
Right.
When you find yourself getting fired from 5 jobs, it's not everybody else. There's something going on with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've been married 4 or 5 times. It's not everybody else. There is an issue. And at some point you have to get to the root of it.
Right.
And I completely believe that Will's enragement is what I called that outburst. That had nothing to do with the joke. Had absolutely nothing to do with it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. There's so many things out in the public eye and ear about him and his wife, their relationship, the dysfunction in the relationship, the dysfunction in their family as a whole,
Yes.
things that they have put out there, and then other things that other people have exposed about them.
Right.
And now here we are. She gets a look and, oh, it's not funny. She's mad. Oh, let me react. But something that I heard, I was listening to Emmanuel Acho,
Yes.
and he talked about having read Will's book. I haven't read it. And he said the very first chapter, Will talks about how he labeled himself as a coward at the age of 9 because he saw his stepfather abuse his mother, and he didn't do anything about it. So the fact that a 9-year-old would have the thought that they can do something about it is a problem. That then means that you are taking on some responsibilities that no 9-year-old in the world should ever have.
That's
Covering and protecting anybody. You're 9. What can you protect besides maybe your dog or something?
Right.
So he said that he labeled himself as a coward then because he didn't protect his mom. That's who I saw walk up on the stage and slap Chris Rock. That 9-year-old kid.
I was telling other people that I said, I think because when he looked at her face, you could see her face. Her whole
She was
expression-
laughing. I don't know.
No, she laughed,
she was
but
not
it
laughing
changed.
at
No,
first. It changed.
It was her eyes kind of went up because that's a whole nother conversation. And he looked at her face, and I think so many emotions, and we don't know the conversations that they've had about not feeling protected or anything like that. I'm not having a assumptive conversation, but I believe it just, in that moment, he just lost it.
And I think, too, we were talking about this at lunch before I came here. I think that it's very interesting, his countenance as he when he stood up from his chair and walked up toward Chris. He walked as if he's going to go have a conversation.
Right.
But I think once he got there, he had to like convince himself, okay, you need to make sure that you take care of your woman, kind of thing. And then,
But how do you forget where you are? Like, how do you forget you're at the Oscars? How do you forget that it's not just the people in the room that's looking at this? It's literally billions of people.
and can we just be frank?
Not
It's
billions
just
like the
black
Super
people
Bowl,
in this
millions.
room.
It's
Right.
yeah,
It's not.
it's other people, but
Wait, hold on. Wait, because you said that. What does it matter that other races are in the room?
Because for us, it's just the truth of the matter. There is a performance that is expected from black people in the presence of white people. It just is. That's
I don't like that though, because I,
like it
feel
either.
like if Will were to do this at the BET Awards or the Source Awards, if that was still around, they'd be like, "Oh, the normal BET Awards,"
Right.
But because it was the Oscars, they were like, "Oh, now somebody who is white." He tweeted, I don't remember who it was. He might have been famous, but he was saying that this put a stain on black culture, and the black people are like, "How are you going to tell us what put a stain on black culture?"
I don't agree necessarily that it puts a stain on black culture. I really think that had this been just if it was just a black actress or a black actor that didn't cater to the masses, then maybe. But I don't know. I think Will, because he was so beloved, and now everybody's looking, and look, we don't know what goes in her home, but now they're blaming Jada. Now she's this toxic presence. Now she's this
Tupac would have shot him.
she's this person that has ruined him and emasculated him and made him look horrible. Now we don't know what he's done,
Right.
But then on the flip side, did y'all see Chris Rock's reaction? And then they showed this interview where Chris Rock is explaining to Howard Stern how he too is he has
Autism.
he had that,
He's on
but
the
he's on the
spectrum.
spectrum. But he also has this thing where he doesn't take up for himself. Like he doesn't believe in himself. Like in his comedy, he thinks he's the best, but above all, he's like so unsure of himself. And you saw that. Like he was like, "Oh man, so what's the guy that works for Jimmy Kent?
Questlove?
Quest. He sees Questlove dap up Will, and he looking like, wait, like you gonna support what he just did to me? But then everybody thought it was a joke. Like nobody thought it was real. So I just feel like the whole thing is a mess, and it comes to the point that people think they want to accept everything. They want to accept an open marriage until somebody catch feelings. They want to accept, all this bad behavior and want to do everything and just don't want to deal with the outcome. But this is the outcome.
Yeah.
A whole mess.
Well, I think, like to your point about childhood trauma, I definitely think it's that. I have not read the book, but I've heard excerpts about like not standing up for his stepdad and all that when he was 9. But also, like you were saying, Natalie, about like their marriage, I think for so many years, they were able to keep like stay in that little bubble, and it was just rumors. Like, just like there's rumors about Puff Daddy and stuff like that. But like there was rumors like, ooh, like their marriage can't be perfect. Like I think that's another reason why Beyonce and Jay-Z, after the Lemonade and all that, they just stay out of the public eye when it comes to that, because you're not going to speculate about our marriage. You're not going to know anything. Right. We're just going to be quiet. She doesn't even post captions, Beyonce, on her Instagram. So I think Will, like Mom was saying, he's just been so esteemed and so respected. And, for that to happen, they're trying to say it like it stained him or whatever. But I think for so many years in the 90s and the 3 kids that they have, no one really knew what happened in the Smith household. And now she has Red Table Talk, and she just airing it all out. And now it's like he's lost control. Like, everybody knows their business. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I like you were saying, I think that slap was not just about the alopecia. It was just everything.
Yeah. But yeah, that couldn't have been about alopecia.
But Janae said it best, and Natalie, you can correct me. I think everybody is one step away from not violence, because I don't believe in violence, but we can get there.
That might be the next step for somebody. That may be their breaking point. It may be violence. It may be depression. It may be attempted suicide. It may be rageful driving. It could be a lot of things. But yeah, I do agree that we're all like right on the cusp of losing it. If you will.
Remember, and I think I told you the guys this, Robin's mom, Jessie. Mm-hmm. And she said, I had a dream about you. She was talking about me. She said, I'm going to be real, very transparent. And she said, I had a dream about you. And she said, I thought you would, I was jumping on her. I was beating her up, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, when I woke up, I was like, what was wrong with her? And she said, you have the spirit of murder, is what she said to me. She said, but because you're a believer, it turns into rage. Mm. And at that time, when I would get really, really upset, like coming out of that marriage relationship that I had that was very abusive, raising new babies in my 20s with 5 kids. I mean, just a whole lot of things, financial crisis. It was a lot. Then when I would get in my car, I would drive extremely fast.
Crazy.
She'd be like this.
Like I,
Nobody.
like Ghost Dad, like Ghost Dad. And for me, because for people who don't listen, if y'all don't know June Speaks, I'm a believer. God is everywhere. For her to for God to show her that is what helped bring me in and say, you need help. Yeah. Like, because you're not dealing with your life. I could have harmed somebody like in my 20s. Like, I was really going through the thick of it. And for God to give that to her, and she be such a mentor to me. Yeah.
I think that so often in our homes, we don't teach our children that it is okay for you to talk about the things that are wrong or that bother you, that, are troubling for you. We tend to tell children, don't talk at all, by way of go to your room and we'll talk about it later, or just go to your room.
Right.
We don't give space for kids to express how it is that they feel if they disagree with mom and dad, and it'd be okay that they disagree because they're little human beings with their own brains,
right,
and their own emotions. We don't give the space for that, or a lot of people don't give the space for that. Then we have these little kids or little human beings that grow up, right, to become adults, and then they don't know how. Wow. To express how it is that they feel, what emotions. And it's so funny because I have to teach clients sometimes about other emotions besides mad, happy, and sad. Mm-hmm. They aren't able to expound from there. They're very limited in their understanding of what other emotions exist, But anger is, like, we call it the secondary emotion, which means that it's an easier emotion to express. I give the analogy of, when we're born, we come out and we're pissed off. Can I say pissed
yes,
off?
Yes.
Okay, so we pissed
She's
off.
a cool counselor over there. The cool counselor.
This is not a Christian podcast, so you can say whatever you want.
Thank you. So we come out of the womb pissed off because we've been in for 9 months,
right,
hopefully, and now there's this bright light and these people talking, and it's cold out here, and where's that lady? I've been hearing her voice all this time, and then when we're wet, we cry and holler.
Right.
When we're hungry, we cry and holler.
Right.
Okay, so we know how to be mad. Right. We know how to be angry out the womb, but then when we are feeling, we're feeling disrespected. How do you express that?
Right.
Do you just get angry? And most people do.
Right.
Opposed to having an adult or an appropriate conversation about feeling disrespected, they don't have the language for it, so they're just angry. Then they have an argument instead. So then arguments typically can lead to violence, right, instead of being able to go back to the beginning of it and saying, well, I felt disrespected when you,
or just saying you hurt my feelings. So, I think it's hard that's not even just men. I think it's just hard for people to say, that really hurt my feelings.
Because people feel like that's weak.
I don't.
Or do you, and in relationships, and we're talking about couple relationships, but what about friendships? Because sometimes I was the type of person back in the day, y'all.
How many days ago?
Some back in the day. Last week.
Back in the day.
Last week.
So I was the type of person that I would just amputate you at the knee. Mm. If something happened, if I felt a betrayal or anything like that, and I remember doing that to a really close friend that I didn't tell what she did to me, to her.
Ghosted.
I just ghosted.
Wow.
And it was a friendship of 20 some odd years, but I just, a problem like Chris Rock, like just winning a thing because I was like, you should know that, but you don't have to know that. We should sit down and have that conversation. So don't y'all do that. If y'all listen to June Speaks, don't do that. Have a conversation, but sometimes it's just tough. You get in your feelings and you think, well, they did that deliberately, and you haven't given them the opportunity to even say, this is what I did. Oh, I didn't know you felt that way. So I do regret that. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning. I don't amputate anybody at the knee anymore. we
does
do
that-
have conversation.
Does that not speak to the health of the relationship, though?
So unpack that with me.
So my thought is, okay, so you didn't feel safe enough to go to her and say, when you did this, it made me feel this. You weren't comfortable enough to do that. Rather, you just left, or you amputated at the knee, as you said. So that says to me that the relationship either wasn't genuine enough, or you guys weren't as open with one another to be able to express that kind of that thought or those feelings with one another.
We were very open. It's just sometimes when I get a little bit annoyed, I just go inward. Everybody's looking.
It's a pattern. It's not necessarily the person. It's a pattern.
I go inward, and you wouldn't know that, So it was just something, and this has been a while ago, but I'm just saying I've grown, and that's why I always suggest to people therapists. I'm like, y'all, I haven't done life by myself. I had to learn to go and get help with walking through life, and I am a advocate for the work that you do.
You in person or you on the phone? I'm trying to see if it's working.
Right.
Now, that's a question that I have. Do you think that matters in person opposed to telephone?
Yes, because I feel like I wouldn't be as open if I'm talking to somebody on the phone. So let me tell you my bad therapist story. It was during the pandemic. Yeah, I was trying to find a new therapist, and I was set up with someone through like my EAP. But the lady was so rude. Like she was talking to me like very condescending. Like I didn't understand her questions, and she was like, let me read it slower. And I was like, that's not. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And then I want to say it was God, because the phone just hung up. And she called back, and I was like, I'm not going to talk to her, because we had nothing to talk about at that point. So I feel like if that were in person, I don't think that would happen. I just feel like people are a different person in person than like
just kind of like
on the phone.
texting or on social media, say all kinds of things. You're not saying in person.
Yeah. So I need to sit on the couch. I need to lay down, get comfortable.
Lay down.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was in therapy during the beginning of COVID, like 2020, and he had to do like that whole rest of the year on Zoom. I think they actually see each other now, but the Zoom really helped him, because he is, y'all know who I'm talking about. He is totally,
I have no
he's
idea.
better.
I have no idea.
It's okay.
My private practice is solely virtual. Yeah.
Is it easier that way?
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it safer that way? For me.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Zoom as much, but it's kind of like I am at work. I could do a couple of days remote, but then there's some days I have to be in the office. So for me, the Zoom is great, but then also sitting in front of my therapist, I think has been great.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a person that I would advocate for both. I don't know about on the phone. I need to see how you're looking at me. Like, what are you thinking? Because I'm already overthought whatever the thought is that I'm having. So what do you think about my overthinking? So it's kind of like that type of thing. And I just think, so one of the reasons we have been on hiatus is my father passed away. And so I, was raised by my stepfather. But my biological father, we probably got closer over the last 5-6 years. So I would think in my younger years, we were fine. Through my 20s, 30s, not so much. 20s probably in and out, 30s not so much. But we finally got to a place where we accepted each other and how we were. But his death, especially because it came so suddenly, I'm left with all of these like crazy emotions. And so Mom told me the other day, I think you're in the anger part of your grief because you're just a little snappy. But I'm more like, it's just crazy what can trigger and all the hidden emotions. Like I tell people, and Kamisha and I have just had conversations too about like, hey, you think you feel a certain type of way about a person until they die. And then I'm glad that we were on good terms, because had we not been, I would have felt horrible. I think like hindsight being 2020, I would be like, okay, does this thing really matter or does it not? So it leads me to this question, and I feel like we would all have a different answer on it. So are you of the thought that we should not expect. Okay, there's a thought pattern that says because Kamisha's my sister, she should do X, Y, and Z. But there's also a thought pattern that says, no, you don't expect people to do anything. Because the more you expect people to do something, the more you're disappointed. You expect them to be who they show you to be. So I feel like you need a little bit of both. But I've been finding that people either feel one way or the other.
I think that when we don't have expectations, it's a safety net for us. Right. It really didn't have anything to do with the person. I believe that you allow people to be who they are, and then you deal with them accordingly.
Right.
You know,
you set the boundary to how you feel about it.
Most definitely. Okay. Most definitely. So if someone is, I'm gonna go back to you, June. If someone is a friend that cuts off at the knees, and you saw them do it to somebody else,
right?
You may not necessarily expect that they will do that to you, but if they do, okay, well, I did see them do that before,
right?
You know, so the expectation isn't that you're going to cut me off,
right?
But if you do that, then I know that that's a part of your character. When something happens in friendship, you end the relationship.
Right.
I saw you do it.
Right.
So now why am I blown away that you've done it?
Very
right.
good.
I saw you do it.
Right.
You know?
Very good.
I saw this thing that we overplay who we are in people's life. Like, I am this person's.
Yeah. Who are you, Janae?
To who?
Me. Who are you to me?
I consider myself Charity's other mother, but I don't treat her like my child. But I would feel a certain type of way. Let's say she excluded me from something, because I'd be like, I thought we was
closer than that girl.
I was better than that. And
I thought we were better than that.
I think we would all feel that certain type of way. Like I'm seeing these people have babies and not tell their parents.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Like, you just gonna have a whole baby and not call? You know, I feel like there's so many different things, but then people are like of the mind of, it's my life.
I feel like you can't expect too much from people. Because you're putting those expectations on them. They never said that's what they was doing.
Well, I wanted to say this. So Janae, like she was saying, she helped me with my biological father as well years ago when she got to that point, because she was like, look, she wasn't just saying like, you can't call me about this anymore, but I was calling, he doesn't call me, he doesn't do this, da, 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 da. And she was just like, either deal with them or don't deal with them. But she's like, you're gonna have to do what I did with my dad. This is like 5-6 years ago. And she was like, accept him. I know you just said that's, I forgot exactly what you said, but basically kind of like you're just putting up a boundary to protect yourself. But you basically said, the way I took it was, quit expecting him to be somebody that he's not. Just accept him for who he is. Right. You know what I mean? Because I was like, he's not like this with my half brother. Like, why am I treated like this? I'm the oldest, da da da. But we've never really had that relationship. Right. You know, I've always had dad, which is our stepdad, but my dad. But that really helped me, because now I'm just like, I just accept him for who he is. Because in my mind, I'm his oldest daughter. I have a little brother that he raised. He didn't raise me. And I'm just like, why aren't we close? And Janae's just like, you just have to accept it for what it is, or you build on that relationship. And I'm like, but I'm the child. She's like, girl, you're 30-something. And I'm like, but I'm his daughter. He should call me. He should reach out to me. He should wish me happy birthday. Da, 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 da.
That's what I said. You can't expect people.
But I feel like you should expect your dad to be your dad.
You can't expect.
Take the mic. I told her she needs to be on the couch. She already knows she should be.
I'm better now.
Not she need to be on the couch.
I've already told Misha.
I feel like she has a good point. But then I also have to say that we do fantasize situations. Like, my dad is going to do this, and he's going to walk me down the aisle. He's going to lavish me. That's not everybody's story. Yeah. Everybody not close to their mom. Everybody not close to their dad. Some people not even close to their family in general. And I think we just have to get to the point of like, accept it. Yeah. There's nothing in this rule book that says you cannot call your daddy every week and just say, hey, Dad, what you doing? You know, it has to be both ways.
I'll address that specifically. I think that the thought there is, and I don't know the situation, so I'm just speaking. If I'm wrong, please tell me. You left me. Oh yeah. I'm the kid. You know, that you be dad, and I'm gonna sit right here. So I think that there are roles that are assigned to people in our lives, but we add an expectation to that role. So when you go and apply for a job, they give you a job description. Anything outside of that may not be reasonable, and you shouldn't really expect it. But when you label dad, I'm assuming that you're going to provide for me, you're going to protect me, you're going to love me, you're going to do all of these things, because that's my understanding of what a dad is. Now, once he teaches you that that's not who he is and he doesn't have the capacity to be that for you, then you accept, oh, this is who he is, so that your feelings aren't hurt anymore because this is what he has shown to you now.
That's exactly where I'm at, yeah.
Yeah, and then I had a question really. At what age, as parents, should we let our people go? Because I know
What does let go mean? What do you
I
mean?
know parents who still treat adults as though they're 15. So what do you say to parents who are the helicopter parents and they use the umbrella of Christianity, or they use the umbrella of, I can say my girls are not married, and I just need to make sure that I protect them. So I'm always calling Janae, where you at? Charity, what you doing?
I don't answer.
I'm looking at.
Mom, you called me twice while I was at work yesterday.
No, but I was calling you. I was calling you about shampoo.
I'm at work. Let me just tell you, at a party.
I was calling you about
Day
shampoo.
party.
I was calling.
Handing out bottles. She's like, "Hey, girl, what shampoo does Ray use?" But anyways,
but that's not. But I'm just talking about people. You got their location. You're constantly. These are adults. And what is that normal? Is that not normal? I mean, at what age do we let our children go? My mama let me go at 18. I'm gonna just say that.
I will say this, as a mother of a 20-year-old, Jesus. Her becoming an adult was difficult for me, but I didn't realize that it would be difficult for me because I thought I was ready for that, right? So she goes off to school. Okay, so I have rules in place when she goes off to school. It really didn't have anything to do with her. They had everything to do with me and my insecurity, honestly, of her being away at school.
Okay.
So we have our first semester, and then the beginning of the second semester, we have this big conversation. She thought she was going off on me, but she wasn't, no. So we had a conversation, and in that conversation, I learned that I needed to back up, right? So she's still 18 at that point. Yeah, she's still 18 at that point. So from me having the discussion with her and her saying certain things to me made me realize, oh, you're doing too much. You do need to back up. It was scary as heck, for me to back up, because I felt like, oh God, well, if I back up, then she's not going to know how to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But then if I really thought about it, I taught her so much.
Right.
So it all boiled down to me not trusting me and what it was that I had done as a mom. So I learned a bit. I learned to back up a bit because I didn't fully let go. And then she turned 19, and then life has happened, and now she's 20, and she was about to take her first drive by herself. She was going to Houston. She was going down to Houston, and the snowstorm happened, or the ice storm, and I was so happy. Thank you, Jesus.
I know.
For the ice.
I know.
So she couldn't go, so I'm thinking, okay, it's canceled. We don't have to worry about this. She rescheduled.
Right.
And it was just a couple of weeks later.
Right.
And then an ice storm came again, but it was like one day, and then the next day it was basically gone. First plan, she was going to have a friend ride with her.
Right.
I was a little comfortable with that, but then the next plan came. The friend had a new job. She couldn't go anymore. So now it's just her driving to Houston
by herself.
At 20 by herself.
Right.
Oh, my God. And then I started thinking about friends that I went to college with, and I was like, well, they drove home by themselves.
No cell phone.
Right.
No cell phone.
No
But you know
cell
what I
phone.
said? Oh, times were different back then. They were different.
Oh, they had phone booths, right?
So what I did was I went to talk to a friend of mine, a coworker actually, a dad, and that has an older daughter, because I needed a father's perspective. Went to talk to him, and I said, you have to help me with this. And this was the best advice I think I've had in my life, honestly, and it was so simple. And he said, Nat, you have just as much control over what happens to her with her driving down the highway to Houston as you do with her sitting on the couch with you watching a movie. None.
True.
None.
I mean, because if God says your breath is gone now,
It's gone
it's
now.
gone.
Right.
Whether you're on the highway or sitting, what can I do? I can do
Right.
nothing.
Right.
And that gave me so much freedom. So to your question, if there's a particular age, I don't know necessarily that there is an age. I do think, though, that there needs to be an awareness. And that, okay, my child is approaching adulthood. Let me start preparing myself, making sure that I'm having conversations, not freaking out about it, but having those conversations, and then start loosening the reins a bit earlier, so that by the time they are an adult, and who came up with 18, but that's a whole other thing. But so by the time they are an adult, you're able to not necessarily let go, but you're a lot looser on your parenting. Because helicopter parenting in and of itself is poor parenting. That's about you questioning you and trying to control your child's life. I don't want to be in control of my children's life. I want them to be safe. That's it.
I tell her all the time, and I feel like with the oldest, they probably get it the worst, right? You have more restraints. But I've moved from manager to consultant.
Yeah.
I do not want to manage what they do all day.
Yes.
I cannot, because if that's the case, it should just still be here in my house.
Right.
So my whole thing is, okay, so Jordan is the youngest. So does she tell me every time she leaves campus? No. But do I say, hey, I'm just so happen to check your location. It's midnight. You're across campus. How you getting back to your dorm? Because what you're not going to do is walk. It's walk. Like, I set those things up and she'd be like, I know, Mom, such and such is going to take me back or whatever, because I know she doesn't have a car. So I think, but am I trying to make her decisions every day? No, because she has to learn how to make decisions. Will I be afraid when she goes from one city to another? Yes, because she doesn't like to talk to people. Like, I have to make her say, Jordan, go ask this person this.
Yeah.
I really don't like, girl, if you don't get up there and use your voice.
Yes.
So yes, I would be very afraid, but at the same time, it's just like you said, what control do we really have?
My parents were just not that. Like when we turned 18, we were 18. I think my mom was over it.
It was a different time. It was a different time.
But they were just not like, my father was the type of father who's like, I'm here. You get in trouble, you have any questions, I'm always here.
That's
my
my dad.
mother was like, girl, go home about your bitch. Oh, you want to be married? Go on, girl. Go get married. You want to do that? Okay, girl, you go on. But it was always an open invitation that you can come home, that we're always here for you. But my parents just, I believe everyone, especially your brother Longdure, when he probably was gone about 15, 16, they were like, whatever.
Now she putting his business out there. Where he was.
No, but I'm just saying it was totally different. Yeah. But I always say, if you have anybody to unpack life with, please unpack life with somebody. Don't try to do this stuff by yourself. God never intended. We don't have to.
We're created for relationship.
We're definitely created for relationship. And
I wanted to say, Mom, you're still kind of a helicopter parent. But no, I just wanted to say this. I allow at my big age, my mom, myself, and Janae, we share each other's location. But that really is more about me, because I feel like I parent my mom and dad now, and I have to know where she's at. I don't know. It's weird. But I don't mind. Yeah, I'm a control freak.
She's a control.
But she thinks, like, I'll call her and be like, Mom, what are you doing? She's like, you already looked at my location, so why are you asking? I'm like, Mom, I really didn't. It's just that if she has an answer by like the fifth call, then I'm like, okay, fine. But I really don't look at it. She thinks I look at it every day, but I don't. And then I called Janae like a couple weeks ago and was like, hey, did you, I was asking her a question about where I was at a certain hour. And she was like, girl, what? I didn't even know you were there. I was like, oh, okay. So I really essentially told her myself. But at this big age, I'm okay with my mom having my location because I don't have a ring on my finger. And I'm like, I would feel safe. Like, at least somebody knows where I'm at if something crazy happens.
I think that's different, though, because of the age.
Yeah.
Because when they're younger, they don't necessarily want to tell you everywhere that they're going. And
I don't care.
nature. And I don't necessarily require that.
Yeah.
So
you don't have their location.
Yeah, I do have
You
a
do?
location,
Okay.
but I don't always check it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
And I agree with what you were saying, Janae, in talking to my therapist that I see every 2 weeks.
a therapist need a therapist?
Therapist needs. Listen,
Did y'all hear that? Repeat that, Natalie. A
a
therapist.
therapist needs a therapist.
Come on now. She got to. They got to unpack his. She got to unpack their life too.
Definitely. I got my own life and I listen to people's lives all day. Yeah. But something that she and I talked about as I was going through this learning, that I'm still learning about parenting this adult, is that I'm now her coach.
Right.
I don't have to hold her hand anymore. I don't have to guide her. I'm just a coach.
Yes. I was trying to teach, Janae, she's the one with the other children, but I told him, I said, it's a time that you take off the head as the parent and you become the consultant, the coach. What they want you to know, they'll bring it to you. And so many people just have a problem with that. She's over there rolling her eyes. I don't get into people's business like that.
Mom, no.
I don't get into y'all's business.
No, we're not doing this today. We're not doing this
So
today.
the thing,
I don't like getting y'all's business.
you will ask
June
questions in
Evans.
different ways to see if we'll answer. I'm never going to answer it, but I don't know about the other ones.
I'm nosy, but I ain't be trying to tell y'all what to do or nothing.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Wow. I don't believe that. But
You know what? I believe there's a whole nother text chain that they got. And they be talking about me. I'm over here just trying to live
All
life.
crack is whack.
yeah, we have several.
Okay, here's the thing.
Wait, no, Janae, I was gonna go to. We're gonna go along, with this, just to kind of wrap it up in a bit. But let's go through some common misconceptions because you kind of already went through it that you have a therapist.
Right.
Why do you think people feel like if you are a therapist, you should have it all together?
Because I've gone to school, I've learned the stuff, and I know how to implement it. That's a lie. What's the scripture say? Is it scripture? It says, physician, heal thyself. That's scripture, isn't it?
I don't know. God help me.
I don't know.
We'll Google that.
Pastor
They'll
didn't
let you know.
talk about that.
I didn't do that on the seminary. Let me just see.
But yeah, it's easy to look at a circumstance or a situation from the outside.
It is.
You get to see the entire thing,
Right.
looking at it. When you're I give this analogy: when you're at the club and you're in the middle of the dance floor, you can't see what's happening on the outside of that dance
Right.
floor. You know what's happening right there around you. But when you're out and probably up a bit, you get to. I'm sorry, I wasn't on the mic. You get to look down and over the entire thing. You see the whole thing. Well, I have a life too. And my life is in the middle of the dance floor.
Right.
So I'm not real sure what's going on the outside. And I need somebody to help me get a better perspective on things, to change some things. And there's some things that I do horrible at, and there's some things that I am amazing at, but I still need somebody to kind of give me some guidance, some of those suggestions I talked about. Because I have a 16-year-old too, and Jesus, she's a little bit different than the older one. She's a little calmer than the older one, but she's still 16.
Right.
And 16 in 2022 is a different thing than it was in 16.
That's a
whenever I
whole
was.
nother session, honey. That's a whole nother session.
So, and I'm divorced and dating, and I'm cute.
Oh,
And
I know that's right.
I know that's
Did she say
right.
divorce
I know that's
and
right.
dating and cute?
And cute, yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Did
I have
y'all
my
hear for
stuff
all the
together.
single men? She's divorced and
But
she's
she might
dating.
not be looking. She might have a boo.
Yeah,
okay.
get her
I don't.
business.
Oh,
and don't.
When she says she's dating, that means she's available.
Yes.
So, do you believe in this? Kind of a little off topic, but do you believe in like dating multiple people at a time, or do you what is it called when you date one person? Was that monogamy?
So there's serial dating,
There we
and
go.
then there's like exclusivity.
Yeah,
exclusivity.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can be exclusive until you've met the person that you want to be exclusive with. So I might meet a gentleman this week, and we may go out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I might meet somebody else in the meantime.
Right.
And we might go out the following week.
Right.
I'm okay with that. But if somebody that I am dating, if we decide, okay, let's see where this is going to go, then I won't date anybody else.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop meeting people. They used to be a real thing for me because I think like a wife. And I've never cheated on anybody ever before in my life, even when I was a teenager dating.
Right.
I never did that.
Right.
So I felt like, oh no, I'm dating this person, so it's cheating. It feels cheating-ish, but there's no commitment there.
No.
And I let them know that up front. So I met you and I met this guy, so I might be going to dinner. Oh, I can't go Saturday because I have plans already. What Sunday
Come on,
look
plans.
like for you?
Come on.
That's real adult.
So I know you're an adult.
I'm 50.
Okay. So when the younger generation, let's say people in their mid 20s, early 30s, falling in love but haven't met the parents, should you date the parents too? Because I had a relationship that my mother-in-law just didn't like me. My first mother-in-law didn't like me.
What do the parents have to do with?
Well, because for me, it was difficulty in the relationship because their dad always wanted me to just call and talk to his mom, and mom just didn't like me. So it made even our relationship very difficult.
Sure. Dr. Tony Evans says,
Okay.
when you marry someone, you're not just marrying them, you marry their whole clan.
I
That is
agree.
just the truth.
Right.
Because they impact what happens in your house because that's where they came from. And it is just wisdom to know those people. Because when you get to know them, you'll know what you're about to be dealing with.
Exactly.
So if they petty and catty and lying and cheating and nasty,
I don't care how much you love him or her. You take this
Can you
whole
take this?
this
Take that
whole
on.
pie?
Yeah, because
Okay.
some of that is in them.
Okay.
You know, they may work real hard at not being that,
Right.
but it's in them.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah, like when whoever marries into, like, you know, Janae gets married again or we get married, whatever, they're going to marry all of the
of
Jackson
us.
Evans clan.
We know
and
some.
we are a lot, you know what I mean? So, yeah, they're going to marry all of us. So, yeah.
I'm not that much. But okay, so another misconception is therapy can stop when you feel better.
So what should happen in therapy is that when you initially come, you give your therapist, so I call my first session the history gathering session. So you come in, I want to know my client like just another person before I get into the stuff.
Right.
You know, so I ask them, so tell me about you. And I know they filled out the paperwork, but honestly, a lot of times the demographic piece I skip. I read what it is that they were coming to therapy for because I want them to talk to me about the demographic. So are you married? Do you have kids? Where are you from? You know, did you go to college? What kind of work do you do? So they share all those different things for me. And so we kind of expound on those things. Excuse me. So once we kind of gather all of those things, then that next session we come up with the treatment plan. And on the treatment plan, we are discussing what it is that they came to therapy for. More often than not, though, most people come to therapy with something in mind that they need to work on, but it's something else.
Right.
That is really the issue, if you will. So you come up with a treatment plan, and there's certain points that you want to address throughout therapy. And once you've reached or you've discussed all of those things and you feel like you've actually reached those goals, then you and your client talk, okay, so I feel like we have met our goals. Do you agree?
Okay.
You know, because it's a contract actually, because you ought to sign that too.
Okay.
And so once you have that in place, they say whether or not they feel like they have or not. Some clients will say, yeah, but there's some other things that I want to keep discussing. Okay, what I typically do at that point, especially if it's somebody I've seen once a week or bi-weekly, I'll say, okay, so let's move to every 3 to 4 weeks then.
Gotcha.
Because this is obviously not that huge of an issue because it hasn't come up in this 6 to 8 week session
Gotcha.
time frame.
Oh, man, I really got to find, is it unethical to go to you as a therapist?
She won't do it.
Man.
I used to always tell Shindria when I would talk to Shindria, I say, Shindria, she said, I'm a therapist, I'm not yours, June. I was like, all the
I need to
good
find one.
therapists, I know them. I Dr. Jada, I can't go to all the good therapists that I know.
Well, if you know any, you know, how can actually, you might as well talk about it. How can people find, you know, some good
a great
therapists? What's a
question.
resource?
So if you have medical insurance, you can always go directly to your insurance company. So Janae mentioned Cigna. You can go to Cigna and do a search on there or whatever your other insurance company might be. There's Psychology Today. There's therapy for Black girls. There's therapy for Black men. So many of them out there. Then you can just go there. What I like about Psychology Today and Therapy for Black Girls is that you can put in the different criteria. So you can say if you want a man or a woman, you can say, this is the insurance that I have. This is my issue. This is the age range that I need. If you want your child to see a therapist, if you want them to do play therapy, you can put that in. And it just narrows it down for your specific area. And you can say whether or not you want to, what race you'd like the therapist to be as well.
I have one last question. When you talk about child, how early do you think a child could see a therapist? Like, how would you know?
It's typically 5.
Okay.
But there's some people that work with kids at as young as 3.
Okay.
I don't work with kids because I have 2 of my own. That's enough. But I do know most people start at 5.
Okay.
And if there's some behavioral issues, and my thought with that whole thing, with kids being in therapy, I do think that kids need therapy, but I always think that the parent is the issue. Because kids do what it is that their parents do, not what it is that they say.
Okay.
There you go.
That's it's stated.
There you go.
There you go. There
Well,
we have it.
I have one last misconception. 'Cause I think this one gonna be good because it's about like the Christians, and they say you just need to pray about it. You don't need therapists. How do you?
You need both. You need Jesus and a therapist.
I agree.
You know, I learned that. I had to learn that years and years ago. And I always tell people, I thank God for Covenant Church. It is a church, but that church had counselors, staffed counselors. Jesse Ruffin was one. They had biblical counselors there for you, and they would even, refer you outward. And then when we went to another church, Word of Truth, Pastor Eben had counselors, and your church, you're on staff there at your church. And so there are so many different ones, but you don't have to go to church. But there was a lot of times when we were coming up, they just didn't believe in it. They just believed that prayer changes everything. But it's prayer and counseling and therapy and coaches and education. It's just a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in church, it's easy to keep it in a space that we know how to control. You know what to do with this, But when you start talking about schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and major depressive disorder and general anxiety disorder, those labels don't fit into Scripture, even though you see it in Scripture.
Right.
So praying about it, those weren't necessarily the things that even got the disciples through. They still had Jesus right there. He was the counselor. Too,
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at
Right.
it.
So I tell people often as well, if you are having a heart issue, you're not just going to pray about this cardiac problem that you're having. You're going to go see a cardiologist, and you will likely pray.
Right.
So if you're having a mental health issue or a mental illness or whatever term you choose to use, then you should pray about it, and you should see a therapist as well, because it's a problem that you can't handle on your own. And God gave us counselors. I know that I'm called by God. I know that I'm anointed to do what it is that I do.
Right.
I watch people's lives change when God gives us opportunity to work together for their life to change. I watch it happen.
I agree.
Ooh, that was good.
This has been good therapy
This
for
has been
me.
great.
Like, I
No, you
just-
need to go lay on the couch. You need to go lay on the couch. But do y'all have any other questions for Natalie before we hop on out?
Well, I wanted to say, I had a question. Out of our group, and even Natalie, you can answer this based on what you know about us. Who do you think, have you guys seen Chris Rock's brother, Tony Rock? He was actually in Dallas on Friday, and that was his first opportunity to talk about what happened last Sunday at the Oscars. So, he got up there and was like, this ain't the Oscars, and every time I see you, it's on site. You gonna slap my brother, da-da-da. And he has an army behind him. It's, he has several brothers. So he's like, I'm not Chris, I'm Tony. So, and I personally know Tony, so that's really him. So out of our group, who do you think would be the Chris that just would have stood there, took it on the chin? And who do you think would have been the Tony? Out of me, Janae, and Charity.
Notice she didn't say me.
Well, no, the sisters. We're talking about, because that's a brotherly situation. So.
From what I know, taking it on the chin, maybe Janae.
Okay.
Coming gangster with it, probably Charity.
Ah.
Kamisha's the crazy one.
She's the crazy one.
Yeah.
Kamisha is the gangster of the group. She gonna come.
I feel like it would actually be. I would probably take it on the
Charity
chin.
would take it on
Charity,
the chin.
Charity would definitely take it on the
Janae
chin.
is ignorant. And what it is that I try to remember that I need to work for a living. So I try to keep it professional.
Got you.
So I don't just jump bad on you. It's just I now have all these boundaries in place. And if you so choose to jump over all these boundaries, then you're gonna get it.
Janae
Yeah.
said you get Fred and June. Fred
Which is her dad.
Which is her dad and her mom. She said you just don't want Fred and June at the same time.
And for me, I guess just being an entrepreneur for so long, I just don't think about I have to answer to somebody or anything like that.
She works in male-dominated industry, so she thinks she'll do sometimes.
We just never choose. And the thing.
Wait,
about
wait,
that-
wait, Mom. Don't say before you say we'd ever choose violence.
Don't.
I get it honorably from you.
Don't.
Like, so yeah, I just want to see, what you knew of us. You've known us for a very long time.
Man, well,
On that note, guys.
yeah, on that note, all of us actively need to stay in therapy. Yeah. And we all need prayer too.
We do.
But thank y'all for Mom. Thank y'all for tuning in to I'm in Control podcast. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us.
And would you mind us pubbing you a little bit, or how you could be reached, or anything like that?
So you can reach me, you can find me on psychologytoday.com. Just search Natalie Dyer and all of my information will show up. Let's see, you can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Smith Dyer, I think. Yeah, this is not a good pub.
Well, I'll put it at the bottom of the.
We'll put it at the bottom. It's Dyer, Dyer.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. And also any single men that do want to follow her on Instagram just to, I don't know, see what she's doing. You can hit her up too. But thank you guys again for tuning in. I am the Charity E.
I am June Speaks, and I'm really calm.
I'm Janae.
I'm Misha.
And that's Natalie. We out. Bye, y'all.
Bye.